Hey Deckers, it's time for the latest top 20 most played Steam Deck games for April this year. Let us know in the comments below what your most played game last month was, and let's dive in. Starting things off at number 20 is Hades, down 5 places. As the immortal prince of the underworld, you'll wield the powers and mythic weapons of Olympus to break free from the clutches of the god of death himself, while growing stronger and unraveling more of the story with each unique escape attempt. Running at a perfectly solid 90 on the OLED and 60 on the LCD, you'll get a good 3 to 4 hours playing with this one. Marvel Rivals sticking in at number 19 with playable status and, well, playable in both respects for this one, as yes, you will be able to play, but not as well as you would hope. Choose from a vast array of fan favorite and cult classic Marvel superheroes and supervillains from across the Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, X-Men, and many more across the Marvel multiverse. Hogwarts Legacy in at number 18, down 6 places, and probably got something to do with the huge performance drop that seems to have occurred. Even with FSR 3 and XeSS 2, performance doesn't seem to be the way that we would hope it was, and still looking at a capped 30 FPS with dips experience. Embark on a journey through familiar and new locations as you explore and discover magical beasts, customize your character and craft potions, master spellcasting, upgrade talents, and become the wizard you want to be. At number 17, we have a re-entry for Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. Kill bugs, upgrade your gear, and delve ever deeper into the lethal caves of boxes. Collect and assemble devastating guns, unleash hell upon wave after wave of aliens, and tunnel your way through to collect riches while trying to survive. With the latest updates, with a few tweaks, we can now run this at a pretty solid 60 frames per second, even with all of the hordes closing in, but pushing around 22 watts, meaning only around 2 to 3 hours gameplay. A brand new entry in at number 16 of Blueprints. Running at a super solid 60 frames per second and pushing only up to 12 watts. Gonna get a good 3 to 5 hours of gameplay on this one. Welcome to Mount Holly, the mysterious manor with shifting rooms. Embark on a genre-defying experience filled with a unique mix of mystery, strategy, and puzzles that weave together to create an unpredictable journey. Another re-entry at number 15 with Dave the Diver. Explore and unravel the mysteries in the depths of the blue hole by day and run a successful exotic sushi restaurant by night. Upgrade and forge equipment with collected resources and sushi restaurant profits to prepare for the dangers that lurk in the unknown. It's all too easy to get lost in the deep with this one, as it runs at a super stable 60 frames per second and around 10 watts at most, giving you a good 4 to 6 hours gameplay. And just be sure to keep an eye on that oxygen tank and don't try and take on too big a fish. Up 3 places to number 14 is R.E.P.O, an online co-op horror game featuring physics, proximity voice chat, and scary monsters. You and up to 5 friends can venture into terrifying environments to extract valuable objects using your physics-based grabbing tools. This is running incredibly well on the Steam Deck with 60 to 90 frames per second. It does dip when you have a few friends in the game as well, but playing this solo won't get you very far, so make sure you've got somebody to help you with this one. At number 13, the game that brings me the most pain, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, dropping 2 places, but running at a perfect 60 frames per second and less than 7 watts, meaning around 8 hours of gameplay on the OLED. Binding of Isaac Rebirth is a randomly generated action RPG shooter with heavy roguelike elements. Find bizarre treasures that will change Isaac's form, enabling him to fight off droves of mysterious creatures, discover secrets, and fight his way to safety. Or, as in my case, die stupidly. Dropping 3 places to number 12 is Slay the Spire, a very easy to run card deck building tower extravaganza, pushing around 7 watts. Again, you're going to get a good 6 to 8 hours battery on this one with a solid 60 frames per second. Whenever you journey up the spire, the layout differs every time. Discover hundreds of cards to add to your deck with each attempt at climbing the spire. Select cards that work together efficiently and dispatch foes to reach the top or pick up funky treasures. At number 11, down 4 places, is Brotato, the only potato capable of handling 6 weapons at a time. Running at a solid 90 frames per second on the OLED or 60 on the LCD, and again a game running under 7 watts with 6 to 8 hours gameplay, helping it be one of the most played on the charts. A spaceship from Tato World has crashed into an alien planet, and the sole survivor, Brotato, is waiting to be rescued by his mates and survive in this hostile environment. Today's video is sponsored by BenQ, the beCreatus GR10 Steam Deck dock, which is one of the most future-proof docks that you're going to be able to get for your Steam Deck and any other handheld device that will fit. With HDMI 2.1 and 2.5 gig LAN with variable refresh rate support, as well as a couple of USB-A and even a USB-C port for your peripherals, with a folding design that really is travel compatible and will hold your Steam Deck very happily, or can fold away and connect to other devices if you're using cases with stands. Whether you're playing with a controller or a mouse and keyboard, this is a fantastic dock to be able to play up to 4K 120Hz on any HDMI 2.1 devices, and is the perfect Steam Deck dock for your future needs. Check out the links in the description below to pick this one up. Dropping 5 places but just sticking to number 10 is Cyberpunk 2077. Play as V, a mercenary in Night City who comes into possession of a biochip containing the consciousness of Johnny Silverhand, a legendary rocker and terrorist sending you on a crazy adventure fueled by his own survival before his consciousness is erased. Absolutely awesome game to play regardless of where you play it, but playing on the Steam Deck will get you a solid 30 to 40 frames per second in the normal world, although 30 frames per second can be a bit of struggle in the DLC, it's still worth playing. At number 9, dropping 3 places, is Red Dead Redemption 2, one of the most gorgeous games that you will ever play on your Steam Deck, and between 30 and 40 frames per second with decent settings is where you want to be on this one. Arthur Morgan and the Van der Linde gang are outlaws on the run. With federal agents and bounty hunters tracking them down, the gang must rob, steal and fight their way across the rugged heartland of America in order to survive. Up 2 places, at number 8 is The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition. As the Dragonborn, you can use powerful shouts, engage in melee, ranged or magic combat, craft gear, and interact with NPCs in a dynamic world filled with dungeons, lore-driven adventures, and the birth of the arrow to the knee meme. Definitely one of those games that you will be pausing to eat your inventory to survive, especially in early dragon encounters. Running at a good 40 to 60 frames per second with pretty high graphic settings on the deck, you can see why this one is always up in the charts. At number 7, dropping 3 places, is Elden Ring. Again, running at a decent 30 to 50 frames per second depending on your settings, but getting a good graphics balance is definitely a great way to enjoy this one. Embark on a perilous journey to become the Elden Lord by exploring vast landscapes, battling powerful foes, and uncovering deep lore set in the mysterious lands between, ruled by the demigods. Just try not to get lost in the process. Up a massive 7 places to number 6 is Vampire Survivors. True story of indie greatness on the Steam Deck, sticking in the charts month after month. Now running at a solid 90 frames per second on the OLED or 60 on the LCD and less than 8 watts, you can see why it's an easily addictive one to play. Vampire Survivors is a time survival game with minimalistic gameplay and roguelike elements. Hell is empty, the devils are here, and there's no place to run or hide. All you can do is survive as long as you can until death inevitably puts an end to your struggles. An absolutely massive new entry in at number 5 of Schedule 1. Nobody saw this one coming, and this solo dev has pulled an absolute miracle. You're a small-time drug dealer rolling into a fresh town with no cash, no product, and no connections. Build your empire from the ground up in this grungy west coast city of Highland Point. Contend against intensifying law enforcement, deadly cartel competitors, and expand your empire to reach the peak of the underworld. Although it's not running the absolute greatest, we can get a good 30 frames per second on this one, and the time just seems to vanish when you're playing this. At number 4, dropping 2 places, is the wonderful Stardew Valley. Still running at a 60 frames per second solid cap and only around 6 watts, giving you a good 10 hours gameplay if you want to stretch it. After inheriting your grandfather's old farm plot, armed with hand-me-down tools, you set out to begin your new life, and you learn to live off the land and turn these overgrown fields into a thriving home. Sticking at number 3, I'm always amazed that Baldur's Gate 3 is still in these charts. Considering in Act 3 it is extremely difficult to run, especially running through town, although Acts 1 and 2 and outside of the city are actually running at a decent 30 frames per second. Once you get to Act 3 it can be a bit too hard to stomach. Caught in a conflict between devils, deities and sinister otherworldly forces, you will determine the fate of the Forgotten Realms as the corruption inside you grows, as well as your power. At number 2, our biggest new entry into the chart is the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. Again, I'm quite surprised that this is so well played considering how badly this runs with a verified tag. You will struggle to keep that 30 to 40 frames per second, although it is still stomachable once you get the settings right, as inside it definitely runs a lot better. Journey through the rich world of Tamriel and battle across the plains of Oblivion, where handcrafted details have been meticulously recreated to ensure each moment of exploration is awe-inspiring. Another month though for Balatro at number 1. Nothing's moving this at the moment, but it could be all changed next month with Expedition 33 coming up the charts as well. But Balatro is blending classic poker mechanics with strategic roguelike elements, making each run unique and unpredictable. Earn enough chips to beat devious blinds, all while uncovering hidden bonus hands and decks as you progress. That's the most played games for April on the Steam Deck. Let us know what you've been playing, and if you like the stats that have been popping up, check out the SDG Companion App on the iOS and Android app stores. Much more to come on that very soon. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.